Good morning, everyone. This is Susan Barbetta from the North Carolina Community College System Office. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you sharing your valuable time with us. If you'll please go ahead and mute your microphones, to make it so much easier for us to be able to hear all the participants, all the speakers and the great information they're going to share with us. This workshop is the second of two that we've presented this fall. There'll be additional workshops available this spring, but this workshop will focus on retention and student success, of course, realizing the overlap with recruitment. Just a little bit of logistics. You obviously all have the agenda and you received the link or you wouldn't be listening to us right now. But the agenda also contains 6 unique links to the 6 different breakout sessions. So they're all on your agenda. When we're done with our opening presentations, you can choose breakout 1, 2, or 3. We'll take a slight break and then you can choose again breakouts 1, 2, and 3. Based on the feedback on the surveys from the last workshop, we have set up a 1-hour breakout session for just collaboration, sharing thoughts, sort of what it would be if we were all together, physically together in a room and, having and sharing some conversation. So we do realize, again, that's competing with 2 other breakout sessions, but that is available at 11 o'clock. And speaking of surveys, you will, of course, receive a survey after today, along with the recording and the presentations. We really encourage you to take a few minutes and fill it out. We very seriously read the surveys, take your feedback, try and incorporate that into subsequent workshops. And as I said, we're planning for the spring right now. Let's see. I know those of you that might have been on the last workshop, we had a little bit of a challenge with some of our breakout sessions in that they ended abruptly while we were really still in the middle of conversation. We're all still learning about Zoom and the different nuances and intricacies. We believe we fixed that problem. And so now we should be able to have conversation that doesn't, end abruptly. We are still, of course, trying to stick to the time schedule, but we've got 2 great speakers opening for us today, and I'll let Matt Meyer introduce them and share what's about to happen for the rest of the day. So again, thanks so much. We're really excited. We feel like we've got a really strong, great agenda, and hope you enjoy this. Matt, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Susan. Hey, everybody. Welcome. We do have a great session today for everybody, and we do hope you come back at the end, for a important pointer and topic from Susan. So that's the little catch you all, that if you come back, she's going to give us something really important to leave our day with. Okay, Susan doesn't know she's going to do that yet, but she's thinking about it. All right, so we'll see you at the end of the conference, and we'll also talk about what's coming up in the future. But let me start by introducing both our speakers. I'm going to start with my colleague here at the System Office, Gilda Rubio Festa. She's the Associate Vice President for College and Career Readiness. She came to the System Office from Central Piedmont Community College. She's a graduate. She's got a graduate degree from Columbia University Teachers College, which has influenced her career and philosophy on education. And an interesting fact about Gilda is that she has lived in 6 other countries, not including the US. So she brings that perspective to the System Office, and she is definitely an asset for us. And then our second speaker, Carol Bono. She's the bilingual multimedia reporter for EdNC. She focuses on ESL and Latinx issues. She grew up in Guatemala, where she graduated from, here's a big test of my pronunciation here, is the Universidad Rafael Landivar, and she can correct that mispronunciation of that university there for me, with a major in communication sciences, focused on communications for development. She earned her master's in mass communication from the University of North Carolina over here at Chapel Hill. And prior to working at EdNC, she was a commercial producer at CW22 and My RDC here in Raleigh. During this time, she produced a lot of different things, but several episodes of Community Matters, which was a 30-minute public affairs show in which members of the community discussed relevant topics for the RTP area. And she's also covered a variety of other other events and things happening in the RTP area. So she is, even though she looks like she's right out of middle school, very young, man, she has tons of experience, and we're going to enjoy listening to her talk. She's currently living in Durham, and she is a great partner to the community college system and to all of us. So again, welcome, and I believe Gilda is going to start us off.
Thank you, Matt. So I'm having a little difficulties here sharing my screen because I don't see the share screen on here.
Gilda, try at the very bottom of the gallery of photos. There's usually a toolbar that'll pop up and a green little box with an up arrow for share screen. It's at the very bottom usually of your screen.
Yeah, I'm not getting that in. Let's see here.
Hilda, you can also email me the PowerPoint if you'd like me to pull it up.
Yeah, because my Zoom is not giving me those options. It went down to nothing.
Yeah, that's happened to me before too.
Yeah, so I'm trying to find it and and if I exit minimize my video, let me try that. No.
You can also try hopping up and
let's see here. I'm gonna, yeah, I'll get started because I don't want to hold this up. But what I'm doing is I'm going to send this to Susan.
Okay.
Does that work?
Sure.
And then I'll just get started because I cannot share this screen. And I got some great slides for you guys.
Would it be helpful, maybe, Carol, would you be able to jump in and go first while Gilda potentially maybe logs out, logs back in, and sends me the PowerPoint? Do you think we could try that maybe?
I can absolutely do that if y'all are okay with it.
Gilda, Juana, Juanez, you want to go that route?
I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay. Picking up stuff as we go. That's amazing. So let me quickly share my screen with y'all. Thumbs up or just yes if y'all can see my screen there.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So let's begin. So Matt, thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you all for having me and diving in with me on the difference between inclusion and belonging, the power of storytelling. I would like to introduce you to Alessandro, one of North Carolina's young Latinx leaders. Alessandro Garcia has a vivid imagination. He is Captain America's friend, he's Venom and Spider-Man, all rolled into one. He loves his family and loves to show off his toys. I was connected to Alessandro through Book Harvest, a nonprofit organization that provides books and ongoing literacy support to families and their children from birth. As a 3-year-old, he has been one of their book babies for most of his life. The moment I interacted with Alessandro, he made me feel as if we were best friends. He immediately started showing off his drum skills and Spider-Man moves to me. In the middle of his interview, he got up, dashed off and said, "Come see all my toys." Not wanting to give the wrong impression, I asked his mom, Mari, if me going upstairs to his room would be okay. She laughed at his excitement and said I could go ahead. Once I made my way toward Alessandro, he continued showing me all of his toys, including his pal Captain America. After a while, we made our way downstairs and managed to capture a few more minutes of his interview before he started playing with a set of magnetized blocks. At this point, it was clear that he was done playing interview and ready to play something else with me, his new friend. A while later, Alessandro ran off, so Mari and I got a chance to talk. I learned that she and her husband moved their family from Venezuela to the United States 3 years ago when Alessandro was a baby. Before I knew it, I'd spent almost 3 hours at their house. I felt I'd taken so much of their time already, but Mari thought otherwise. She invited me to stay and have homemade arepas with them. I sadly declined the offer. It took so much willpower saying no to arepas, but promised to come back another time. Alessandro made sure to give me a hug before I left. Alessandro is one of the 381,000 Latinx kids under the age of 18 that live in North Carolina, and whose lives are and will be affected by the type of access and opportunities their families have to education in our state. During September's workshops, Dr. Tippett did an amazing job laying out the data for us, showing the exponential growth of the Latinx population in North Carolina for the past 30 years. These population estimates are an amazing starting point for us to dig deeper and truly understand our Latinx students' context, needs, wants, and dreams. I don't know about you all, but whenever I'm reading and analyzing big numbers, it requires so much mental fuel to keep my brain going in order to not lose the magnitude of these stats and the urgency that they contain, especially when these numbers keep rolling in. Behind every single one of those number units, there is a person, and if we don't step up and figure out how best to serve them, the arbitrary circumstances in which they were born will determine how wide their opportunity gap is and will be throughout their life. We can't allow ourselves to be desensitized by numbers. We need to see these numbers as a sturdy foundational board from which we will dive deeper into our Latinx students' ambitions and talents and determine how best to serve them. For me, storytelling is my superpower. Data is one of the many tools in my handy dandy utility belt. Interviewing is another tool. I've got multimedia resources on standby for when I need them, whether that is video, photos, audio, animation, you name it. But I wouldn't be able to carry any of these tools without the actual utility belt. In my line of work, my belt are relationships. Relationships based on empathy and understanding, not on assumptions. One of the first instances that come to mind with this is the many identities contained within the Latinx community. Just among the 6 people shown here, including myself, we have heritages from Mexico, Colombia, Puerto Rico, and Guatemala represented. Some of us identify with the Latinx label, while some of us feel more comfortable identifying as Chicana, among other identities. Some of us were born in this country. Some of us arrived here at some point in our lives. For some of us, Spanglish is truly our first language. For others, the assimilation process of growing up in the States left scars in our identities that we've reclaimed and have proudly made our own. What once could have been considered as not American enough or not Latinx enough is now embraced as the skill of navigating between cultures, languages, and worldviews. The one common denominator among us is that as adults, out of our childhood and teenage formative years, our identities is still something that we're figuring out to this day. This is just a very small example that showcases how the Latinx community is not a monolith, and the 6 of us represent a fraction of the percentage of the more than 1 million Latinx individuals in North Carolina. By coupling data with testimonials, can we truly get a detailed picture of the best ways to cater to our Latinx students? And the best way to collect these stories is by reaching out and talking to people. I would like to walk you through the process of how storytelling can empower our Latinx community. Meet Alex Villeda. Alex founded Salud back in 2017 after being an advisor at City of Medicine Academy, a magnet high school designed to educate and train students to work in the field of health services and medical care. While there, Alex saw that he was the only Latino on staff. As the program director and founder of Salud, Alex's main objective is to offer Latinx high school students access to Latinx mentors. For him, quote, "I want them to feel like their perspectives are valued and that they can contribute to whatever profession they choose," unquote. Through the program's 12 sessions, students get a chance to learn from Latinx physicians and community leaders about the social determinants of health that affect the Latinx community and the need for a diversified medical landscape. Through their mentorship model, students learn how to carve their own path and seek resources and support, while getting individualized college planning advice and a head start on the application process. Joel Rodriguez, a scholar from the program, said that for him, quote, "Most of the program was just realizing that even though we're underrepresented, we're not alone in our process. They empowered us to take pride in who we are and where we come from. It was helpful learning about the different mental health issues and different problems that can arise from being a minority and being a Hispanic compared to other people. It helped me understand what I had to do, what I had to go through, and how different my experience is from other people's," unquote. For Alex, if he's not here in a couple of years because of residency, He knows there's already a mentorship structure in place that will keep the program going and that lets him know, quote, that the people running it know what the value of the program is and what it's trying to accomplish, and that they are as passionate about it as we are, and that they can take our vision, improve it, and serve even more kids, unquote. Alex and myself have collaborated in a couple of projects so far. This relationship ensures that I'm able to continue lifting his efforts up as one of our state's healthcare leaders. You'll notice on the slide a diamond shape behind the text. That's to visually show one of my favorite go-to story structures and one that will help you lift up the stories of our Latinx students, the diamond form. The diamond form introduces a story from a small relatable focus, moves on to the bigger picture at hand, and wraps up with a detailed focus. It presents the audience with a story where the introduction's focus is something that will allow them to relate to it. In Salud's case, Alex is our starting point, someone who recognized the need for students to have role models that reflected their own identities. In other words, by using him as a tip of our diamond, we're presenting our audience with something all humans crave, the sense of belonging. With this form, we can later take this introduction and break it apart to see where it's stemming from and what is it a result of. In other words, we present the bigger picture. What's happening at the college level, the county level, the state level? What data and past research illustrates the importance of the issue? What programs are actively addressing these issues and are making sure that we're moving forward instead of reacting with apathy to these issues? Afterwards, we take that bigger picture and boil it back down to our detailed focus, whether that means going back to our first person or someone else. What we're looking for with this wrap up is reinforcing the story's main point and reinforcing the connection we established at the beginning. Unlike other story structures, the diamond form allows us to create immediate connection with our audience, especially since we're amplifying the voices of our Latinx student population. So, Carol, you might be thinking to yourself right now, how do we go about doing this? And I am so glad you asked, because I would like to share with you the 5 main ingredients that will help you produce some powerful storytelling: trust, empathy, respect, empowerment, and consistency. Now, you all possess these ingredients already. Otherwise, you wouldn't have signed up for these sessions. And you are always in the search of strengthening your muscles in all of these aspects. What I want to offer you today is the ways in which these elements show up when creating spaces of support and belonging in our community colleges. Trust is crucial for storytelling, and trust is something that's beyond our control. No matter how much we tell students, families, and educators that they can trust us, they are the ones who will take that leap of faith and will take that very important step for the relationship to move forward. I can't tell you the amount of times I've interviewed people and they've shared with me thoughts and perspectives that I didn't consider myself worthy of knowing because we had just met. This is one of the reasons I always end my interviews by thanking the person for their trust and acknowledge how much that meant. During her September workshop, Sarah Wright from Surrey shared the impact stickers can have on our Latinx students when deciding if they can trust a faculty member with their own situations. An image with the phrase, "No human is illegal," was the turning point for one of Sarah's students to know that she could safely share her story with her. Other ways in which we can let our Latinx students and families know that they can trust us is by showing up to community events that are important for them and making sure that we are raising them up throughout their educational journey. Empathy is a tricky one. You need to leave all your assumptions at the door to truly empathize with someone and try, to the best of your abilities, to understand where they're coming from. That's why diversifying the staff within our community colleges is so helpful to ensure empathic teams. This is not to say that allyship doesn't play a key role in this. I can't emphasize enough how much allyship is necessary, but the cultural wealth that comes from being part of the Latinx community and growing up with this identity has shaped our worldview, makes us connect the dots in ways that other people wouldn't, and offers us the know-how to know exactly how best to serve our Latinx students. This is why I included staff training on helpful resources here for every single faculty and staff member to know how to move forward with a Latinx student's needs. Something I want to note is that these trainings will also benefit your Latinx faculty and staff for 2 reasons. 1, it allows them to connect with their colleagues and get a feel of where the college stands. And 2, even though they are aware of their community's needs, they won't know of every single new resource and initiative that will be beneficial in the resources toolbox when interacting with the student population. Respect is closely linked to empathy. For both powerful storytelling and creating spaces of belonging, respect shows up when we acknowledge students' dignity and journeys. One of the many great ways that we can accomplish this is through active listening. And by that, I mean truly listening to the other person, not crafting our response or follow-up while hearing them in the background. I gotta say, active listening is tough. I can't tell you the amount of times I've wrapped up an interview and felt so mentally exhausted because I was fully engaged with the conversation, making sure I'm asking the right follow-up questions to put together the best snapshot of that person in that moment in time. It's as exhausting as it is rewarding. Now, the way we empower people through stories is by lifting their stories up and amplifying their voices to the best of our abilities. And if you've approached them with trust, empathy, and respect, you will most certainly accomplish that. The way that we empower our Latinx students and ensure the retention and success in our community colleges is by, one, making sure we are connecting them to the resources they need that will help them thrive through their educational journey, and two, creating and offering spaces where they can bring all that they carry with them, their identities, their journeys, their struggles, their dreams, and letting them know that it's because of these things that they succeed, not in spite of them. This is how we truly create environments where leadership thrives. And you know what's so great about empowering students through storytelling? That student story will inspire other students. That story will let other students know that someone like them was able to accomplish what they want as well. And that will create a network through which students can inspire and learn from each other. An example that comes to mind with this is Heidi White's workshop from September when she shared Durham Tech's Latinx Ambassador Program. The last one, consistency. It's very self-explanatory. It's all about showing up and following up. Nothing can replace the momentum that builds up when people, your students, your families, your Latinx community sees that you're truly connecting with them and that you're here in it for the long haul and to see their success through. I will share with you a summary of a piece I produced on Europe Charlotte, located in central Piedmont. This story illustrates the diamond form in action, as well as the impact achieved when you implement the 5 ingredients mentioned earlier into your storytelling. When Deja Ramsher applied to Europe Charlotte, she had just given birth, and after maternity leave, she was figuring out what she wanted to do next. Quote, I knew I didn't want to work a dead-end job, and I didn't want to invest years into education before I could get a decent paying job to support my family, unquote. Deja is now part of Europe Charlotte's newest cohort and is currently interning at Merck. Europe Charlotte launched in August 2019, 4 years after research ranked Charlotte dead last for social mobility among the 50 largest metro areas in the country. Erica Potts, Associate Director of Programs at Europe Charlotte, explained the motivation for launching. Quote, we wanted to connect those young adults who could not find full-time employment. We wanted to train them and get them access to those opportunities, unquote. Erica explained that the team approaches every single student with the understanding that they already have what it takes to be successful in corporate America. Quote, it's our role to really just connect them with those opportunities so that they can soar and be successful, unquote. Europe Charlotte takes care of their students holistically. That means offering their students support through whatever they're experiencing as young adults, whether that means tutoring or venting about life. They expect their students to make mistakes during the program. In fact, they encourage it. As Erica says, make your mistakes in this nurturing environment where we can coach you through and have those teachable moment conversations with you so that we can correct it. Setting an example for her family is what motivated Deja to apply to Europe Charlotte. Quote, I have 3 children, so I wanted to be able to provide for them, and I wanted to show them what success looks like, unquote. Growing up, she didn't have a direct reflection of what success looked like. Quote, so it just seemed like a no-brainer to join the program that not only would help me gain experience in the corporate world, but would also help me build my professional skills, my life skills, my technical skills, and just overall help me develop as a person, unquote. This story highlights something important. Programs that support our Latinx students don't have to cater solely to the student population. As long as you have programs in place that fully embrace the 5 ingredients and are offering spaces and resources for our students to feel seen and empowered, you will see results. In Europe Charlotte's case, they connect low-income students with these opportunities and remind them that they've already got what it takes to succeed in corporate America. By offering these places of conversation and creation and catering to the many demographics that our young, talented Latinx students are part of, we build up their self-esteem and help them own their journey and the talents they have to offer the world. I want to point out that you don't have to start off your storytelling efforts from scratch. There are organizations like NCCCS that you can connect with to share your students and your community college's stories. One of the mediums I want to highlight for you all is this wonderful podcast produced by our intern, Caden Bradford. You can connect with him through his email, schedule a meeting, and share with him your educational journey, how education equity has shown up in your work, and how exactly you're working towards it. The beautiful thing about this is that all you have to focus on is sharing your story, and Kaden will take care of all the behind the scenes of bringing this episode to life. The 5 ingredients for powerful storytelling are all connected to each other. And as I mentioned before, consistency is one ingredient that will really start building things up. When students start seeing your efforts again and again, that will guarantee that they will want to share their stories with you because you are the real deal. Now, this isn't a magic bullet. You will start reaping the benefits from your storytelling in the medium to long term. Time is the secret ingredient in this mix, and one that is intertwined with consistency. It won't be until you have a healthy amount of stories under your belt that you will notice the effects this is having on building student empowerment. Word of mouth is so incredibly effective, and once your Latinx students are aware of your efforts to amplify their voices and offer them resources that are tailored to their situation, they will embrace their leadership and their capacity to succeed. So, bringing it back to the name of this presentation, why is it that inclusion isn't the same as belonging? On one of Brene Brown's podcasts, she said, "Belonging requires the courage to be yourself and let the world see you. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are." If there's one thing that rings true for all your Latinx students, is that cultural assimilation is painful. Every single effort that they take to assimilate and leave behind their true identity stems from them not wanting to be called names at school, not seeing themselves represented in their surroundings, from having people tell them that this is America, so you better speak English or go back to where they came from. It stems from wanting to feel safe. So they learn to keep certain things to themselves. Inclusion isn't belonging the same way that tolerance is an acceptance. If we really want to build spaces where Latinx students feel like they belong and guarantee their retention and success, we need to understand the reasoning behind their decisions. And we need to understand that offering them resources means nothing if we don't also figure out ways to make these resources sustainable within the community. An example that comes to mind is Victoria's Burgos workshop from September. In it, she talked about third-party sponsorships for our DACA students. I reached out to her to learn more about their sponsorship setup at Forsyth Tech. She shared with me that whenever she's reached out to employers, unfortunately, they think she's asking them to do something shady when she's asking them to sponsor students. After she explains the situation further, they might come around and agree. Now, I would like for you to unpack something with me and just sit with it for a moment. What does it say about our society that a resource like sponsorships is immediately deemed shady when it comes to sponsoring our DACA students? How do you think this makes our students feel if they ever found out about this? Would it then be shocking to assume that a student would never approach a business for a sponsorship because then they'd feel that they're outing themselves and their immigration status and putting themselves and their family safety at risk? And speaking of safety, what are we doing and how are we showing up to support our undocumented students? Amping up the percentage of Latinx enrollment means nothing if the community colleges aren't providing spaces and resources that make these students feel understood and reminds them that that is the place where they belong and they can truly be themselves. During their panel back in September, Flora Calderon-Steck, Victoria Burgos, and Karina Diaz encouraged our community colleges to move away from information silos and provide appropriate information to our Latinx students in a more accessible way. And one of the ways this can be accomplished is through your storytelling. When we're thinking about our students, we need to keep in mind the domino effect that will come about when students hear about another student's success story. To take it even further, consider how these stories, the stories that you produce, will not only inspire the student population of your own college, but you'll be able to disseminate these stories within the community college system and allow your fellow colleges to be inspired by your stories of success and learn from each other to continue empowering our student population. This is how powerful storytelling will ensure your Latinx students retention and success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol. We appreciate that. It was a great presentation. Thank you so much. We've already had several people in the chat ask for it, and we will, of course, send it to everyone. So thank you again. And I think we're ready for Gilda now. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I decided I'm not going to touch anything on my screen, and really I apologize and thank you for giving me this opportunity. even though my technology didn't work so well this morning. Anyway, how is everybody? I really do appreciate this opportunity to welcome you to this continuing examination on such an imperative matter. And thank you to Carla for all the information she just gave us. This professional development series is so timely and really vital as we all emerge into a multiracial democracy. Next slide. As you can see, the Latino population is growing, and notice the growth rate. It is accounted for 1/2 of the total US population growth since 2010. So in this brief introduction, I want to offer a professional perspective on some points and also give you some questions to consider as you listen to all of these presentations. I do bring over 20 years of combined experience serving a North Carolina community college system. And then from my personal perspective, I am a 3rd-generation Chicana. Next slide. Oh no, keep it on this slide, yeah. So if you attended the first session of this series, our system office, AVP Bill Schneider, shared the enrollment data with us on the enrollment data of all of the colleges. As you can see, we have approximately 12% in fall 2019. The program that has the largest enrollment is that of college and career readiness. That is the program for which I am a part of. And just in general, I want to say that research shows that the first stop in a Latino's journey in general is the community college. That's across the United States. It's closer to home, it's usually more financially obtainable, and also, of course, it has more of an open door admissions. So, however, next slide, please. With this growing population, right, 9.6% of North Carolina identifies as Hispanic, and we've also had a great change, as you can see, 26% since between 2010 and 2018. Community colleges are certainly poised to be, the first step in a Latino's educational attainment. As you can also see the median age, a very young population. And I also want you to note of the ancestry, and we'll be talking about that in a little bit later on in this presentation. But this is what we have in North Carolina. Next slide. However, with this growing population and the fact that we are poised to actually be the first step, there is a report that I wanted to share with you by the Education Trust. It found that nationally, Latinos are underrepresented in community colleges. They did create a metrics that looked at the percentage of the undergraduate share of Latino undergraduates at community colleges relative to our share of Latino residents. And as you can see, North Carolina is 67%, and that is a D+. So we certainly have some work to do for, in our community college system. We also know that a diverse faculty and staff, just as was mentioned before, is really important, and it just doesn't, it benefits all students. There is mounting evidence that students that have teachers that look like them are more likely to have better academic performance. They view these teachers as role models. So as you can see though, however, next slide. What we're doing though, in terms of actually having completion by Latino students in North Carolina, we've received an F. So again, there's some of these which you're going to be hearing today are some ways in which we can certainly improve this completion. I also know that with a diverse faculty and staff, you know that that is certainly shown to improve performance. And I asked Research and Performance to pull the data regarding Latino Hispanic representation at our colleges. And as you can see, it grew somewhat. However, in October 2019, there's still 2.4% that identify as Hispanic and Latino. This is pulled from data that is shared with Research and Performance, and can certainly be pulled at any time. So again, a retention strategy is looking at ways in which we can recruit and employ a lot more Latinos and Hispanics. So I think just in terms of this presentation, I think you've noticed that I switched from Latinos, Hispanics, Chicanas. I think one of the first things that we need to consider is that, again, as was always mentioned in all of these presentations, that the Latino community is not a monolithic, uniform community. For example, I've been living in North Carolina for over 20 years. I identify as a Chicana. I am third generation. However, I also identify as a Chicana as opposed to a Latina first and foremost. And as you can see, what term do you use to describe yourself? 51% of Latinos generally will talk about their country of origin. And why do I bring this up? Because the immigrant experience is shaped by many, many things. And we know that depending on where you are in the immigrant experience, also depending on what country you're coming from, also depending on economic factors, there are so many things that actually will give you your true identity. By the time the third generation arrives, generally, you've lost the language. You do not have that native language, and that's not just true for Latinos. So really it's looking at, the question is, how well do you know your Latino community? You need to understand that it's not one size fits all. While we can certainly generalize, you certainly need to have a better understanding of who that Latino population is that you're serving. I think there was an article in the New York Times this past Sunday, and it was, there is no Latino vote. The author really reiterated that Hispanic and Latinos identify in different ways, and really it's just a lens in which you view the world. So my question is, again, how well do you know your Latino community? So in closing, I just wanted to share this quote by Juana Felipe Herrera, the US Poet Laureate 2015. And basically it's saying that all of us are here today and really on this stage. And I just hope that this is giving you some insight and some context for which you can start learning so that we all learn together. And thank you very much.